Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host Elias. This is a random type of episode. If you roll the die or pick a random card, this is going to be spiritual. So for some reason, if you're an atheist who is deeply offended, you can go somewhere else. This is or if you know you're flawed, which I recommend you do the latter, stay here, listen, be spiritually enlightened. You see, the reason I'm more graceful is because some reason I feel there's some spirits in me because normally I'm not this graceful. If you leave, you leave. I'm not the type I'm not gonna pull a gun to your head and say, you better listen to this podcast episode / sermon. No, it's not gonna be a sermon. I'm kidding right there. We're definitely not gonna preach, but we will talk about it. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna be enlightened probably one way. If I'm going to be daring and ambitious, maybe two ways, maybe three. Who knows? It depends on your receptors, your spiritual receptors. And God willing, you have them open. Before we get more into this, I have a guest here who is not just going to enlighten you, he's definitely going to enlighten me too. Because you know me as a Christian. You can even nickname me even the cursing Christian at times. I'm not going to pretend like that it doesn't happen. Some of them, I go off the walls, especially for a good, cheap laugh. But this is not the kind of random episode. This is more spiritual. This is more wisdom. This is going to focus on those kind of attributes instead of, a good, cheap, spicy jokes just to get you laughing or wild up if you're too sensitive because somebody hates spice. That's why I consider myself spicy. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Oh, well, God make us all very different. If we're all the same, believe me, this world will be boring. So I have a guest here. His name is Cory Rosenke. He can feel free to correct me in the middle of my little introduction. Okay.
Sounds good.
He is a pastor. All right. And not just any pastor who, reads the Bible, stays locked up in the church, don't experience reality and just what I mean by reality is just the world. You gotta experience the world, not be conformed by it. The Bible's very clear about that, but you gotta experience it. So he is a very interesting pastor. He's also a communicator. He's an author and he is well versed in philosophy. So just don't think he just buries his head in the Bible and smell that dust and not relate to you. He is not that kind of pastor, okay? We are going to break it down. We're going to meet you at your level to the best of our ability. And we're going to trust in the Holy Spirit. We're both pretty proud Christians. I don't know how proud each of us are. That's up to you to judge that. And we're also going to get into the human behavior. Why are we, to put it nicely, so wacky when it comes to this? Why? Why are we like water and oil? We want to do sinful things. Party, try 15 different drugs, have multiple merges, if you know what I mean. That's the cleanest way I could put it. I'm just going to put a setting, a club, and a bedroom. You put two and two together, okay? I'm not going to go further than that. This is an adult podcast. This is not for kids. And I'm going to be graceful once, parents. If your kids are listening to this, I'll give you a pass. Because this is a spiritual episode. This is not me being uncensored, being raw, even being sometimes entertainingly controversial. Okay? This is me being calm. God's given me this ability. Well, I'm connected with him. He's always with me, but I'm not always with him. That's what makes humanity so wacky. We the ones decide to cut the plug sometimes because we want to do our own thing. Sometimes we think we know more than God. And trust me, I've done that. I don't know. God. I think you're a little crazy. I'm going to go walk to the left. Ooh, something happened. That could have been avoided. Long story short, I almost got to a fight with a person. So that's one example. That's not the worst example, but there are many more. And he gives you hints. He gives you many chances, but we don't always listen. We get too conformed and too absorbed into this world. That's why meditation is very, very important. Reading the Bible, hearing the word of God is very, very important. Okay. I feel like I'm turning to a pastor a little bit. Let me pass that right back to Cory. This is your episode. Feel free to chime in. Feel free to even dominate. They heard my voice long enough.
I was gonna say, just preach it, Elias. Preach it. It's good stuff.
No, you're more certified on that one. I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just an opening act at best.
Well, you are exactly right. We are all flawed, each and every one of us. There's a saying that in Christianity that says God did not come to make bad people good; He came to make dead people live. He came to awaken our souls so that we aren't wandering around the world as we are today, as these fleshy zombies pursuing things that do not make us happy. In fact, things that rob us of happiness, things that make us empty, and yet we pursue them headlong. And so God has come to wake us up. And that's the mission that I'm on today. That's the mission that I've been on for quite a while now, is just to remind people that this world you see around you, this biological bag that you seem to be encompassed in, this bag of flesh, is not what defines you. More than a brain or a body, you are a soul. And when we awaken to that reality, it changes everything.
Yep. And I think one confusion I have noticed, because you're definitely not the first spiritual person I've talked to. There's many I've talked to, there's even a couple I just listened to. People seem to conflate soul and spirit. Some even separate them altogether, depending who you listen to, really. Soul, I'm just gonna say the one that's interesting to me, the ones that separates the two. Spirit is your connection to God. Soul is more your personality, your behavior, something that's interesting. That's your emotional state. That's soul. While spirit is your dialogue and your letting God let you become the little God, at least at that moment. So that's how one separated. It's very interesting. I don't know what's your take on that.
I would personally say that the simplistic way, if we're going to follow Occam's razor and follow the most obvious way, which seems the most logical, I would say that they are more synonyms, soul and spirit. If we were to separate them, I know for some religious people, as an example, they like to separate them. I don't think it's beneficial to do so. But those who do, I would say that we refer to the soul when we're talking about our current fallen, sinful state. And sometimes we call it the spirit. The spirit when it's the restored soul. The soul that is in fact living in connection with God. Though I personally, in my language, I do not separate them. To me, the word spirit, the word soul, the word heart, for that matter, like we always talk about the human heart, and people say follow your heart. Well, what are they talking about? They're talking about their soul. They're talking about the seat of their personhood, or what I often call simply our non-biological selves. See, we are ultimately three-part beings: body, mind, and soul. 2 parts biological, 1 part non-biological. 2 parts mortal, 1 part immortal. And I believe that is the clearest way for us to understand it. And again, in following Occam's razor, I think that is the best way to do it. Soul and spirit, synonymous, same thing in my context.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah. And I would say even historically, if you go way back into ancient Greece, like if you think of the Battle of Troy, and the writing of the Iliad, in ancient times, it was very clear that when people talked about the soul, they were talking about the core of who we are, all encompassing. That is that the seat of our personality, the seat of our motivation, the seat of who we are. Over time, as we came through into the times of the philosophers, that's when they began to separate things, where they looked kind of as the soul as more of the, as you mentioned, personality, and then it's like they separated the spirit to be something religious. I would say that was not done because of an academic enlightenment nor a spiritual enlightenment. It was done haphazard, and it's not helpful. And so I try to pull them back and say, no, if we're going to talk about the soul, we're talking about the core of who you are. We're talking about your non-biological self. We're talking about you, the part of you that lives on after this fleshly part of you passes away and dies and rots in the earth.
Yeah, I've leaned that thinking for a long time. I've listened to the other one about separation, but I think they're just the way I see it. I lean towards more that they're more interconnected than just more like.
Well, it's not a theological thing to separate them. It's for some reason people have come to that preference or have come to that habit. Because as a Christian, I would say the Bible does not define the soul as something different from our spirit, unless of course we're talking about the Holy Spirit, right? But when we're talking about our personal selves, the Bible does not separate them. Sometimes it just simply uses spirit in one context, soul in another, heart in another context, right? But essentially we're talking about the same thing, our non-biological persons.
Yeah, and to that further to your point, yeah, they just use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
And sometimes similar concepts we care because I was not some book people, but it's worth it. It will enrich you. Especially sadly the churches have done such a good job getting rid of the interesting parts of the Bible, if you will. Some that could get of course the flesh wild up, maybe for right or wrong reasons. And and just censor, just talk about spirituality with vague to no context, which is very dull and makes out of touch. And so this is why personally I get tuned out with certain passages, talk about that without connected it to the biblical story or connected it to current events even. Oh, but some of them are so free. I could go on about that.
Yeah, let me put it this way. The scripture clearly teaches that the source of human sinfulness is the soul. The scripture clearly teaches that Jesus came and died to save our souls, right? And so this idea of somehow separating the soul from the spirit makes no theological sense in my view.
And he says, in my view, so you have no real reason to be offended, okay? I ain't say, oh, it's a definitive fact. I mean, you just said that, and I won't even be offended. I said, well, yeah. I mean, do you want me to argue with every single person by every single thing? No, that's unsustainable. Even the strongest warrior would fall apart. Okay,
and that's where the world has gotten so insane. I mean, it should go without saying. It should be. Logically, it should be assumed that when you say anything, it's from your perspective and it's your opinion. We ought to assume that, right? We aren't God, which means we're not all knowing and we don't get to define reality. So anything I say, anything Trump says or Obama says or Gavin Newsom says is their perspective, right? But sadly, we live in a world, as you mentioned, where everybody's uptight, everyone's offended. And so we have to say things like, from my perspective, though clearly I'm simply sharing everything from my perspective.
And not just that, you're even quoting the Bible, so. Yeah. But I don't know. I may act like I might act like the world's hopeless, but I have more optimism than I care to admit. I'm just not good at showing it at times, or even expressing it at times. But I believe we head in the right direction because as long as the great dog spelled backwards, is in control, that's why I keep reminding myself and keep connected with him. That's what keeps me going. Especially you that are lost. And about lost, I actually got a question. This transitions to because I think a lot of people are so lost and depressed because they don't discover meaning or purpose.
Yeah.
And I actually almost fell for that. And guess what? That's a very good way to be depressed and mentally unstable. I'll say very good way. What do you think? How can we find purpose in this such a distracting world? We're so distracted with conflict. Idiotic conversations are going to be quite frank with social media, the boy math, girl math nonsense. I'm not going to give you that definition. You look that up in the internet. There you go. That's the active engagement. Look that up. That's a call to action. Look up what do you mean by boy math, girl math? It's nonsense. What I read. I'm not going to waste my brain cells on that. We got to be more I would say more focused and committed to the right things. I mean, how can we discover purpose and meaning in such a crazy world full of not even just artificial intelligence, which I'm pro AI, but we gotta be vigilant with it. I'm optimism with an asterisk. If we ain't cautious, whatever, we could just kill ourselves. And I'm sure God doesn't want that. He's a Lord of life, not death. Mm-hmm. But we flirt with a lot of innovation that could lead us to death if you're not careful. But instead of me getting elongated here, with this keep going on and on and on with this elongated pretext, how can you discover meaning in such a unstable, crazy world?
Well, the interesting thing is that is what the whole world is searching for. I mean, the world is laced with the paths of rich and educated multitudes, all searching for purpose and meaning. And so, but what I always say this, because I get to ask this question a lot. Before you can ask the question of what my purpose is, you have to know what you are. And we as the human race have forgotten what it means to be human. It's funny because we can look at the creatures of the earth, every creature on earth. We can say, oh, the point of the giraffe is so that they can reach the leaves at the top of the tree, right? Where no one else can reach. The purpose of the lion is to thin down the herds of wildebeests to kill the sick and the aged so that disease doesn't go rampant. And then, of course, the purpose of the beetle and the ant is to eat the flesh that's on the ground and to turn it into soil. We can look at the world and we can say the purpose of all these things. But when it comes to our own purpose, we're lost. We're clueless. And I believe in order to answer your purpose, you have to answer the question, what am I? What does it mean to be human? And to be honest, that is the core passion of my specific, of me, my desire to speak to people is to remind people of who we are. What does it mean to be human? What is a human? As humans, we are 3-part beings: body, mind, and soul. And our souls are the core of who we are. I often say when we're looking at our human hierarchy, our soul is the boss. It gives the directives to the mind gives the directives to the body, and we act. That is our inner hierarchy. That is the hierarchy behind all other hierarchies. And so when we're looking at human ambition, when we're looking at all that humanity has done in our desire to advance technology or to scour the globe or to reach for the stars, it's not an intellectual desire that's driving us. It's a spiritual desire. There is this core inside of us that is sub-psychology that is actually driving us forward. And part of the evidence is this. I mean, think of the world today. We live in a time of unprecedented prosperity. And by that, I mean never before in the history of the world has a generation like ours been granted access to wealth opportunity, to education, to comfort, to leisure, to entertainment, to world travel. We have more than any generation in the history of mankind, and yet virtually every study shows that we are more unhappy than ever. It's crazy. We've reached the summit to a certain degree, and we've found nothing there, which has been shocking to us because we've been told for thousands of years, for that matter, that if we just reach the top of that financial mountain or that sexual mountain or that educational mountain, whatever, that we will find peace and happiness. And ours is a generation that has reached the summit, and we've just discovered emptiness. And so we live in a culture now, even though we're more rich and educated than any generation in history, there is despair, there is depression. Despite our education, there is rampant confusion. There is bitterness. There is, I would say at times, there's a building rage under the surface of society. And the reason I believe for that is because we were told that if we just get enough money, we'll be happy. If we just got a good education, our society would suddenly become this blissful place where we all sang kumbaya and got along in harmony. We've been told if we just get enough power, if we just take enough control, that we will find peace and happiness. And ours is the generation that has been granted access to all these things, and we've discovered that there's no peace there. There's no contentment there. And so that's what I believe is the reason for this rage, this bitterness, this depression that we see in our world today. And the reason is because we have forgotten that we are spiritual beings. We've forgotten that we are spiritual beings. And so the world is obsessed with the pursuit of trying to satisfy the cravings of the body and the mind. That's what every TV commercial is trying to sell you. That's what every politician is trying to promise you. Comfort, right? Prosperity to your body and your mind. Meanwhile, our souls, the core of who we are, they're starving to death. And I believe that is the root cause for the chaos we see in the world today.
I got to plug in another interview that touches on that. And I did point that out. So maybe because we have forgotten one very important aspect. We are spiritual beings. I mean, no argument for me. You gave so much examples. Yeah, every commercial is just feeling a crave.
Yeah.
Very rarely you're gonna see a spiritual ad, if you're lucky to encounter one.
Yeah, maybe on Fox News, but nowhere else.
Thousands of or you don't gotta go somewhere else. You really got I mean, most of the time you got to actively search for it. Let's just be very, very clear.
Yeah.
In terms of commercials, there's one for food, there's one for medicine, there's one for makeup, there's one for, it gives you instant muscles.
Yeah. Get this car.
Looking guy, or this car, or this
credit card.
Yeah. That's as big as a mall or something. All that stuff. Yeah, it's all stuff, flesh. But not one touches the spirit.
Yeah.
It is all carnal, physical, biological cravings.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Hey, argue with Cory and me if you want. I don't think we're going to gang up on you, but one by one, we will dismantle your craziness. I said, okay, Cory, take a turn dismantling that one. I'll take another turn. It'll be like a respectful tag team match. You ready, listeners? There's more of y'all than us, but I don't know. We make up in spiritual quality. Okay, let me not tempt them. Let me not tempt them too much.
And so to answer your original question was where do we find purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to find it in career. We're not going to find it in the acquisition of wealth. Ultimately, we have to find purpose in the soul. The question of purpose is a spiritual question. It is not an educational question or an academic question. It is a spiritual question. And so I would just say that to start with, to help people get pointed in the right direction.
Well, humanist, that's a big L for you, what the kids would say, because humanist thinking removes that. Thinking, we are intellectual beings. If we're so intellectual, why are we falling apart? Like I said, we got so much opportunity, more than any other generation ever. Okay. And yet we are more not as intelligent. We're socially less savvy. We're more depressed. We're even physically, biologically, even weaker as well, because it's just so much convenience. And just add on to the TV ads. A new flat screen TV with a quality that is a notch higher than the other one. Well, we had 720 pixel, 1080, 4K, and then it got the ULED, Ultra ULED, whatever it is. I think we had 8K at this point with TV.
Yeah.
I mean,
and by all means,
the Galaxies, they got the numbers, they got the next thing coming out each year. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Okay, and by all means, enjoy that, right? But don't for a second think that's what's going to make you happy. Don't for a second think that that's what's going to give you meaning in life, right? Enjoy it. I mean, I much prefer, big, clear television screens than the old, small, blurry ones, right? But don't think for a second they'll make you happy. Don't think for a second that degree that you're pursuing, that doctorate, that PhD, great, go for it. It's a good thing. And maybe you'll benefit humanity to some degree with it, but it's not what's going to make you happy. I heard a quote from, what's his name again? A Canadian comedian from Dumb and Dumber. What was his name?
Jim Carrey.
Man. Jim Carrey. Yeah, I heard a quote from Jim Carrey a couple weeks ago. And he said this. Of course, Jim Carrey's famous, rich, right? He said, I wish that everybody could experience riches and fame so that they would realize that that's not the answer. You're not going to find it there, right? And yet we have been so brainwashed. It's like we're robots, hell-bent, must make more money, must get more power, right? Must have more sex, because we think that's what's going to make us happy, right? And yet the people who have attained wealth and power and sex will tell you it's never enough. I saw an interview with Elon Musk a little while ago, and that thing was brought up. The interviewer asked him, are you happy? And Elon Musk, the richest man who has ever lived, right? He sat there for a moment thinking, and he looked at the interviewer and he said, I don't think many people would want to be me. And it's just like, what? But all that money, the richest man, he can buy anything on earth he wants. He can almost buy the earth. Right? It will not make you happy. If you want to find happiness, if you want to find peace, if you want to find purpose and fulfillment, you have to look towards the spiritual. You have to look towards the soul.
I was going to ask this question, but I think you already answered. This is one of the many reasons why this world is falling apart.
Yeah. The reason the world is falling apart is because we are obsessed with the biological. We have forgotten what it means to be human, right? And we are pursuing happiness in all the wrong places.
Yep. So we could just definitely move on from that one, because I could just plug in those couple of answers. All right, so I got a interesting one. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes even struggle, especially if I'm not fully focused. How can one decode made in God's image? I know it's more than just look, have a part of a look like God. Anyone decodes to add extra deep meaning to that statement?
Yeah. To be made in the image of God, I believe, is clear. I believe to be made in the image of God does not mean that God looks like us and we look like God. It does not mean God has 10 toes, right, and 10 fingers. It does not mean that God gets tired when he has to run uphill. Being made in the image of God means that we were designed, we have been designed to live in connection with him. And to add to your previous question, the chaos in the world, the reason is because we have stopped living in connection with him. And for those who are interested in the biblical story, that's the story right from the beginning in Genesis, right? Mankind chose to go their own way and do their own thing, and chaos has reigned ever since. We have been designed to live in connection with God. And you can pursue, like I said, all these worldly riches, but if you are not in connection with God, you will ultimately not find peace because, well, it's like, what's the purpose of a hammer? Well, the purpose of a hammer, it was made to drive nails or to pull nails, right? An orange, you can't hammer a nail with an orange, right? And so you have to understand that that is the same thing. That's whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, right? Whether you're a Christian or a Buddhist or an atheist or you're unsure of what you are yet, it doesn't change the fact that at the core of who you are designed to live in connection with your maker. It's an awesome thought, actually, to realize that we are designed to be connected to the maker of the universe. Very humbling, very awesome thought.
I'm just gonna be a little silent, intentional. Make sure you marinate that statement. Yeah, normally I don't allow silences even for a brief second, but that is beyond what a normal mushy brain that we have could process. Okay, this is why we definitely need to be connected via spirit. Yeah, the mind's part of it, but it's not the main driving force. Believe me.
Well, and that's why that ancient psalm that even most people, again, if they're not people who read the Bible or consider Christianity, everyone knows this psalm. I'll quote it in the old ancient King James. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because thou art with me. What an awesome thought, right? That is why the message to people is, you know what? You don't need a new car. You don't need a bigger house. You don't need more money to access peace and happiness right now. Chaos might be happening around you, but when you know that you are in connection with your maker and your maker has your back, you can have peace in any situation, even the valley of the shadow of death.
Listeners, just make sure that's marinating. Again, another intentional silence. This is not a political point that I make that just briefly go to the next one, and to the next one. This is something that needs to be marinated. This is not a 1, 2, 3 Insta checklist. No, this needs to be embedded into your spirit slash soul. Okay. And I'm very serious right now. This is not jokey, rated R, rated X lies. This is another aspect of me. This is the one I want to dominate. I might lose some of you. It's okay. Because some of you like the craziness, the nonsense. When I shout, act very dramatic just for cheap entertainment. But this is not about cheap entertainment. This is about something a whole lot more deeper than that. I'm sure for the older listeners, you're appreciating this. This is not going to add to your anxiety or anything, the exact opposite. This is the cure. Okay, this is forget a vaccine. Vaccine don't cure. Just preps you for a fight. This is the perfect antidote against depression, against anxiety, heck, even great amount of physical illnesses. Because the medical community neglects the spiritual slash soul aspect. I'm happy that more incorporating it, but it needs to be put into the mainstream consciousness. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is very important you grasp this. All right. And even after this episode, make sure you find some kind of space, be creative, get some time of silence and be away from the phone, the computer, and all that. I know it's easier said than done because you're so plugged in in 10,000 ways. That's worth it. It's worth it. All right. It's so worth it. This is why I haven't caught a mental breakdown or hysterical breakdown in years. This is why my depression was cured after 2 years. There was a much higher power. Ooh, I was dysfunctional as a teenager. But you know what? God bring you back. He prevented me from committing suicide. I could have had to. The conditions were set in place. It was good for me to. It was right for me to commit suicide. Snuck into the roof of the very tall building, ready to run off until I was short of one step of jumping off. Right there, that was divine intervention, and thank God I listened, because this conversation would have never, ever, ever happened. That and many other, I'm not going to say religious, I think religious is a derogatory term, spiritual encounters right after that. Thank God, too, because I'm doing better. You can, too. It's accessible. It's not beyond the stars kind of reach. I can even dare say it's already within you, just so disconnected. Focusing on the out, you got to focus within, okay? And that I could say, well, I think we already even answered that fifth question. What's the biggest flaw of humanity? They don't pay attention to the inside.
Yeah.
That's already answered.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
I mean, if you want to add more to it, go right ahead.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for sharing the vulnerability of your story, because I believe that there are so many people who are right there and so many people who are about to get there, where we have been following this false lie that this is all there is, and we need to be king of this little biological castle. And there are so many, not just young people, but there are even old people who have come to the point where their whole life they thought, if I could just achieve and gain all this stuff, I must find happiness by default. I must experience purpose by default. And they don't. And there's this discouragement, if this is all there is, what's the point? And I want to remind people, folks, this is not all there is. Not only are you so much more, but what's going on around you is so much more. It's an adventure. It's exciting. There is purpose. There is hope. There's the opportunity for peace and joy. And you don't have to buy a single thing to get it.
You hear that? This is probably my third or even fourth intentional sign. I'm losing count. I want to make sure you're getting this, because this is just vital. This is more important than your job, even your family. Yeah, that's a bit spicy. But once you focus on this, so many things were aligned. That's why I'm saying it. Not because I want you to throw your wife out the window or let the kids starve. That's craziness. And trust me, God is very clear on that. He don't want you to do that either. If you want to be a cynic about it, or just say God's unreasonable, God is crazy, well, that's your opinion. And quite frankly, you're a fool. He designed us, not the other way around. You want to think the other way around? Well, there's such thing called a loony bin.
And the thing about it, Elias, is that all of us intuitively know that we have a soul. We intuitively know that we exist beyond biology. And one of the ways that, so sometimes I'm on shows with atheists, and I often get asked the question, what's your proof that we have a soul? You can say all this stuff, but what's your proof? And I generally start by saying, you're your own best proof. There is something within you that reaches beyond, that is yearning for something that the golden eagle isn't, that the chimpanzee isn't. It's unique to us, the human race. And then I often say this, think of this, every culture who ever existed, independently, without coercion, came to the same conclusion, that we exist beyond biology, that we exist after this fleshly avatar of ours dies away. When you think of this, the awareness of the soul did not travel around the world like the recipe to make gunpowder, or religion for that matter, right? When the Europeans who believed in a soul, landed their ships at Plymouth Rock, they came to the Native Americans who already believed in the soul. They didn't need anyone to come tell them. They knew it. They had their own way to describe it, their own way to, to try to put a framework around what was happening, but they knew it. When the Romans who believed in a soul landed their ships north of the White Cliffs of Dover in Brittany, they came to people who already had an awareness of the soul. Long before Africa was ever subject to outside conquest or influence, they believed in the soul. So when you think that every culture without coercion came to the same conclusion, that is as scientific a fact as you can get. You are a three-part being: body, mind, and soul. That is not just a religious statement. I would say to you, that is a scientific statement. It is the very definition of a scientific statement, and it's something that each one of us is aware of inside.
Now that one is not going to be intentional silence. Nuke bomb on the atheist narrative. That part, I don't mind being vicious and aggressive in a verbal sense, just to shut that nonsense down. And remember, the foolish think they're wise. I got an easy quote on that. See, I don't know my Bible. I mean, the odd thing I'm going to say, thank God and wait for the pandemic and the so-called lockdowns. Because, it gave me a great opportunity to re-strengthen my faith and read the Bible. Do I know every single verse or every single thing? Trust me, if I did, I would have been in heaven already. I wouldn't have been this crazy thing called a human body. That is amazing, but flawed.
Well, that's why when the scripture says the fool says in his heart there is no God, it's not saying you're a fool because you don't believe me. It's saying you're a fool because you don't believe yourself. We have this inner testimony that only in modern times, only in recent decades, have we sought to suppress. And our reason for suppressing it is not because of some new scientific enlightenment, right? It's because of a bolder desire, a bolder stubbornness, even dare I say it, a bolder rebellion to turn our back away from any kind of spiritual understanding and to focus solely on the biological. Right? The reason the Bible says, the fool says in his heart there is no God is not because you don't believe me or you don't believe the lies. It's because you won't believe yourself.
Another nuke bomb against the atheist narrative. If atheism was a town right now, it would have been leveled. Ooh, such a violent analogy. Oh, well. Listen, I have debated with atheists, and not all of them are left wing. That's a political stereotype. Certain of them even lean to the right. Yeah, there are right wingers that are atheists. Yeah, I mean, it's not always the left. We all know that one. That's easy. That's the one that's been portrayed. But even some of those on the right, I said, no, I'm pro-God. That's why I don't say I'm pro-conservative, pro-progressive Christian, none of that. Look, God is beyond those political labels. It's silly just to say he's conservative, liberal. I mean, if you want to go by each example, fine, but he's beyond all that stuff. Or moderate, or even a revolutionary. I think that's a revolutionary in a sense that he betters humanity. Yeah. We all think revolutionaries are crazy people who dare to challenge the system only through a big bloody battle. But Christ is he's revolutionary in a very unique sense. He betters us spiritually. He grants us all the other stuff with it. You'd be surprised. Intellect is one of them. Wisdom is one of them. I mean, it's so much I could go through, but trust me, I want Cory to talk. That's why I'm going to shorten my list here. I don't want his voice to be underutilized here. That'll be my legitimate fear right now. I'm sure he got a lot more to say, and I think we already answered question 4. How can the followers of God navigate through this deceptive ambiguity? We already talked so much about meditation and reading the Bible and all that. I'm sure you want to add your stuff too.
Well, I was going to say the message I want to share is just as much for people who would call themselves religious or spiritual or Christian or whatever as it is for those who don't, right? Because the truth of the matter is that I can say that, as a person who has pastored for a lot of years, it's not just people outside the church living as if there's no God. There's plenty of people inside the church living as if there's no God, right? And oftentimes we will, with our mouths, say that we believe in something, but then with our actions reveal that we don't, right? And so my message to the church, for that matter, or to the spiritual community out there would be, as well as to everyone else, to say, remember that you are more than a body and a brain. And when you think about God, we need to think about more than biological blessing and biological privilege, and biological gain. When we again need to think about the spiritual aspect, right? As I mentioned before, the scripture holds the soul accountable for sin, which is why it says Jesus came to save our souls. And even I would say the Christian world has forgotten this fact. And they viewed the gospel, they viewed the Bible from a biological standpoint when it is so much more than that.
Ooh, I'm sure certain churchgoers are mad at that statement. Forget the atheists now. I already poke at them, but the infertile church in a spiritual sense. Don't misconstrue me, listeners.
Yeah.
In a spiritual sense. We are not talking about biology. Believe me, I'm sure plenty of you are further there, but that's besides the point.
Well, what people in the church end up doing so often is they end up looking to God as a spiritual sugar daddy. And so what ends up happening is we end up looking for peace and happiness and purpose and all those same things in all the same failed places that everyone else is. Only now we say, God, you're supposed to help me find peace and happiness in all these failed places. When what God wants to say is, no, I have a different system altogether, right? But so many of us, even in the church, we don't want a new system. We just want God to help us pursue the failed system. And God says, no, I got something better for you. I got something better for you.
Spiritual quote unquote Karens. Oh yeah, they definitely exist. I used to be one of those. Yeah, but I used to be one of those. And the example back to when I used to be very depressed. I used to demand, God, if you were so great, how can you let my father die at such a young age? If you were so great, and trust me, I flirted with I used to use atheism as more for guise of anger of God. I mean, he knows this. So if you were so great, I even pretend to be atheist for 2 years.
Yeah.
Source of depression. I said, you know what? He don't exist. If he did, he would have miraculously got rid of all that char that's stuck in his lungs, miraculously cured him, and I was that Father, if you was so great. And then, man, you know what's funny part? I started listening to atheist people more, and of course, it drove me further downhill. I said, wow. I said, well, they could debate good. I said, it's better than these Christian dummies. I said, oh, okay. As a progressive human being, I'm tossing this obsolete thing called the Bible out the window. This is me as a teenager. But you know what? You can't throw away part of yourself. I don't know, unless you want to commit suicide, but even that's very sinful because that's an ultimate disrespect to your temple. These bag of bones, organs, you want to call them. He does say you have to respect that because he provided it. It's his gift.
Yeah.
And that changed that's one of the main things that changed my thinking. But of course, at that time, I didn't care. I ate like a glutton. If I was a woman, look, I could have gave birth to 3 children, no problem. How big the belly was. Yeah, pretty gross detail, but I ate like a slob. I'm happy I'm no longer there. Amen to that. And you just gotta appreciate the fact that you're alive. That's one of my day job coworkers tell me. Just if nothing else.
Well, and you are alive for a purpose.
Right.
You are alive for, I would say, I'm going to give you a number of reasons. Number one, you're alive so that you can live in connection with the maker of the universe. You can know God just as you are known by God. And you are also alive to reflect that reality to the people around you. Right?
Well said. You see, he just connected a loose end that was left there. And a lot of people got this belief. That's why I had to bring it out. I'm sure, went from this thread, he made it to a nice bow now. All circles out now. Not just 2 loose ends. Okay, from beginning to end, that's it. Nope. It's encompassing. It keeps going. Doesn't have a beginning and an end. So thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people needed to hear that. There's hope out there. You're not your past. You're not your mistakes. You're not your flaw. I don't hear a lot of preachers say that one.
Yeah.
Some of them do. But I don't hear that enough.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to get right. You need to get right with God. You need to get right with God because the way I see it, if we keep going this direction, I won't be surprised. We don't know when the world's going to end. It's not an if kind of question. Or actually, make it more practical. You don't know when your life is going to end. Forget about the whole revelations thing. I think that's just going to disrupt some souls already. You don't know when your life is going to end. So time is limited, especially with this body that we are temporarily housing. This is temporary. Life is temporary. This is temporary. Okay. Real Christians even say this is temporary. This whole, this house, all these things, especially your body, is temporary. It rots. It decays.
Yeah.
Well, your soul and spirit could be imprisoned in hell, and that's a lot more terrifying than a dead body.
Yeah.
Not
that's why
too much, but there is.
Yeah. And that's again why the scripture says, what is it worth to gain the whole world but lose your own soul? And that word, lose your soul, it doesn't mean that you've lost it. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't lose your soul, because you are your soul. But what it means in the actual Greek, it means to suffer injury to. What good is it to gain the whole world, get all the money, get all the fame, get all the sex, get all the property, get all the, steak dinners, and yet suffer injury to your soul? It's not worth it.
I mean, if God tax you with that, that's different. But a lot of people, let's just be real. Let's be very clear and real. They pursue it because of ego, selfish interest, vast majority. I'm sure God's test
and ignorance. I think that there's that's what. Yeah, that's why I'm on this journey, because a whole lot of people. Let's be honest, we're up against it because we are bombarded day and night with the narrative that this is all there is. It's all about acquisition. It's all about the biological. It's all about stuff. It's all about, building an ever bigger pile of possessions. And so it's easy for us, when you're constantly bombarded with propaganda like that, it's easy for us to start living that way and start running. They said, oh man, I my 401k, there's not enough in it. Oh man, I got to go get. By all means, do that. That's probably a good idea, right? But we've been bombarded. This is all there is, and it's not. It's not. People need to realize this is not all there is. You are so much more. What's happening around you is so much more than what you think it is. And if we can come to that awareness, right? Not only does that bring excitement and purpose and joy, but it also makes you chill a little bit. You could chill a little bit, right? Because you don't need to feel so angst at that politician, right? Or that local judge or whatever, which, don't get me wrong. I could go on a long tangent here about what, the state of the world in that regard, right? But because that there's something bigger going on, and there's someone bigger that has your back and that is in control, and that is a delightful realization to have.
Yep. No, I truly, no. Let me say, forget hope. Hope is weak. You need to get this. Okay, this is a very important. It's so important. Can you live without your heart? So treat it as important as that, because it is very essential. We have forgotten it. There's times I've massively severed my connection temporarily from it. It's like he says, you don't really lose your soul, but you do lose your connection. But you can reconnect. Okay, God gives chances. He's not that. Okay, Cory messed up one time. Oh, y'all going straight to hell. Expressway. Okay, if that was the standard, all of humanity would be there.
That's true. Yep.
Every single one of them would be there.
Yeah, right.
Even Mr. Rogers. Yes, I'm going to throw, I think, a pretty good human being in there. Mr. Rogers, yes. As great as he was, in my opinion, and even a lot of people's opinion, he would have been thrown to hell. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, we could easily picture Adolf Hitler. That's not an exciting example, but that one's going to spook people up. Mr. Rogers go to hell? Oh, that was God saying, okay, one mistake, you're going straight to hell. Even someone like Mr. Rogers, or even, let's throw another one, Mother Teresa. Hell. Go right in there. You all failures. Who cares? You're all going to burn or freeze. I'm tired of seeing you filthy human beings. If God really operated that way.
Well, to me, that is the great light of my Christian faith, in that at the core of it, it doesn't say, God doesn't say, be perfect, be good, and then, all these things will be given to you as a benefit. The Christian faith says, you can't be good. You will blow it, right? And so Jesus comes along and says, let me do it for you. that's ultimately at the foundation of the Christian faith. And that's the exciting thing. Because we're all going to blow it. We're all going to make mistakes. That is reality. But forgiveness and hope is available.
Yep. He's always willing to give it. Okay. As long as you sincerely mean to do the action.
Yeah.
You say, "Oh, I'm sorry, God." Then you go back to the sinful action. You know that is sinful, but keep doing it. It's okay. He's far more merciful than what you're thinking. Okay. If he can forgive murderers, trust me, most of us are not murderers. He can forgive you. Okay. All right. So before I forget, I almost forgot this one guess. Almost pains me. I know you already got your book out there. I was kind of staring at it a little bit. And now let's just talk about the book, The Magnetic Heart of God. This is your newest book. Yeah, all pre-orders. Not even out yet. Got a pre-order button.
Couple of weeks. Yep.
Couple weeks. So if you want to give your loved one this as a Christmas present, a birth of Christ, come on, it's very timely.
Well, and this book has been a labor of love for the last 4 years. It's called The Magnetic Heart of God, Understanding the 5 Cravings of Your Soul. So what I try to do, and it's not just, it is present, yes, that more than a brain or a body, you are a soul, but then also say, what is the purpose of the soul? What is the soul looking for? Because I premise in the book that the soul has 5 core cravings. And through understanding those 5 core cravings, you can understand all of human behavior throughout all of history. They are the core motivator for everything we do, every relationship we enter, every career we pursue, everything we walk away from is motivated by these cravings of our soul. And so I really break down I walk those parallel lines of theology and philosophy and psychology and neuroscience and really try to help people understand why we do what we do, why we behave the way we behave. And I really believe that when people understand finally what they're looking for, they have a better chance of finding it. Because right now, I think the world is looking for peace and happiness, and they don't even know what it is. And so I try to break down and define in the book, this is what you're looking for, right? And then people have a better chance of finding it.
Yep, they're looking at millions wrong different places.
Yeah.
Internet, and TV, and all that, or their friends, whatever. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to be alone.
Well, the world is so lost and confused and hurting, for that matter, that they have replaced true joy and peace with entertainment. And it doesn't make them happy, but it keeps them entertained.
And distracted.
Yep. It's a sad, sad situation.
Yep. So just get that book, okay? And it's going to be sold in many, many mainstream stores. Many of them. I'll plug it in for him. You feel free to chime in or add in whatever I forget. So far as in U.S. and Canada. And even offers it outside North America.
Well, yeah, it'll be available worldwide. On my website, I put a few links to a few kind of places. But ultimately, wherever you are in the world, if you type in The Magnetic Heart of God, Understanding the 5 Cravings of Your Soul, it will show you that it is in a store near you.
Yep. And remember, he's connected not just to spiritual aspect, connected. He has put real intersectionalities with psychology, neuroscience, all that, which I think that's very important. You're already meeting these fleshy beings halfway with that connection. I meet him halfway. Come on, he's doing that. All right. He's not making it seem like God's just this weird, super powerful alien that's all perfect and you can never reach him. No. That's crazy talk. Craziness. If anyone's spewing that lie, rebuke them. That's obvious lie. Okay. That's all I can say. And me, I'm not the type I'm going to beat you to death with a Bible. Okay, stupid sinner. Get your act right while the head is bleeding and everything. No. I don't do that. But I will preach it and try to lead by example. Believe it or not, I think you get more people into the Lord that way. Lead by example, less words, more impactful, powerful, spirit-rich action.
Agreed. Yep.
So it's good to preach the word.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, it has its place. But the problem is there's too much word, very little action backing it up. That's why Christianity is losing believers and followers, even credibility, which is extremely sad. It's sad. And I used to laugh at those people. I just really pity them because they're missing out on something, not something, an entity, a divine entity. That's so great. Oof. Forgive me, Lord, for that. Just saying something. That's just misrepresenting it. So just make sure you get it. I know I'm more serious and calm than usual, but this is a serious topic. And I am personally tired of just treating my Christian identity like it's secondary. That's sinful. God should be first place. Okay. That's the current sin. I'm going to admit it right now. That tree is a second identity. No, I should be the identity. All that other stuff, man, American, all these other ethnicities that I got, the secondary tertiary. Being child of God should be the identity, especially if you pursue Christianity. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. You know, be the brother, father. I mean, all these roles are great, but they're not the most important. And sadly, we put other stuff in that pedestal.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Everything else needs to be built on that foundation.
riches,
Yeah.
sex, just gathering a bunch of things. These people don't even have to be rich. Trust me, a poor person could find a way to gather a bunch of TVs and all of that. Or just finding any little reason to be agitated, So that's all I'm gonna say. And let's see what other stuff he got to promote. I know there's a few more. I know that book was a big one. Oh, he has Facebook and Twitter as well, so you can connect to him, have a dialogue through the internet instead of just trolling one up. This is the purposely anger people. I mean, there's something about trolling, love and embracing controversy. I know it's in Second Timothy. There is a quote against trolls. I'm not gonna lie, I have done some of that. If you love controversies or start one just cause, that's very sinful. So believe me, the Bible's not obsolete. If anything, it's ahead of us. Way ahead of us. Probably the most progressive thing.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I'm not even say thing. You should correct me here. Be strict a book. Okay. If you want to talk about true progressive, that'll be the Bible, not the political sense either, because I'll get disgusted. And I could go on a long tangent and even rant on the flaws of progressivism, and even I would say even close-minded paleo conservatism as an independent. So, but this is not a really political episode. This is a spiritual episode focusing on God, how you connect and get to the true pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Connection to the Constitution. Boom.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add before I wrap this up?
I would just remind your listeners, just in closing, that you are not the reflection looking back at you in the mirror. You are more than the number on the weigh scale, the diploma on your wall, the balance in your bank account. You're a soul created in the image of God, designed to live in connection with your maker. And the moment that we truly embrace that reality, it will change everything. Hope and peace and purpose are available to you right now, right where you are. If we will desist in our persistent pursuit of all the wrong things in all the wrong places.
So in other words, stop conforming into this world. Stop. I mean, are you going to participate in this world? Yeah, he's not saying disconnect yourself to the point that you just bury your head in the sand and just live as a monk. I mean, hey, there's some novelty to it.
Well, not only that, but when you truly live this way, it will actually allow you to enjoy the world. You'll be able to live in the world in a more meaningful way than ever before, because you won't simply be obsessed with the pursuit of biological things.
Yeah, man, be a rat. That's part of the rat race.
Yep. That's called the rat race for a reason.
And all rats, they are slaves.
Yeah.
And, well, they're dirty and all that other stuff. But the most important part is that they're slave, they get caught in traps, and then
they have purposeless, cannibalistic lives.
Yep. Yeah. And so yeah, just make sure you get that clear. Yep. You need to participate in this world. You are part of this world. Don't be conformed to its thinking and its way of life. Christians, we are held to a much higher standard to live more godly life. Easier said than done, I know, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Gonna pick you hard. Pick this hard, okay?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, the only thing I can say is I wish I knew this sooner, but better late than never.
Better late than never. Absolutely.
So if I can start getting into it in my early 20s or I just hit my mid 30s, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready. We the ones not ready.
Yeah.
We come all with trillions worth of excuses.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just have a little flair to the same excuse. Okay. So we need to be ready and meditate, develop a relationship with the Lord. That's a thing I don't hear a whole lot of people are doing. And, we could go back to repeating those examples, but you get the point. Okay. So I'm going to repeat this question again. Who knows if another enlightening message emerges through Cory? If not, it's fine. We got enough material regardless. Anything else? Going once, twice?
I'm just going to play off what you just said. We don't reject God because we're smart. We reject God because we're stupid. And again, I don't want to sound controversial. We reject God because we are hard-headed and we are insistent on pursuing the wrong things in the wrong places. And the day will come when we will wake up, or we will have the opportunity to come to our senses. And the beauty of it is, as you mentioned, it's never too late. Your maker always says, welcome home.
Yep. So I think that's a great way to end it. I am not going to probe that any further. I should probe other questions in general, but I think it's good enough. So listeners, whatever time zone, whatever you're geographically located, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night. And remember, take what we said very, very seriously. Okay? Peace.